Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
And welcome everyone to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and today we have a lot to get into. I have some exciting stats in regards to Russel Westbrook and his performance last night, as well as a recap of just the NBA in general, all the games that took place last night, as well as what to look forward to today. I'm excited. This is the biggest weekend in college basketball. So there's that, as well as an update on the All-American game. So we have a lot to get into. So first off, I'm going to start with, and we have some Carmelo Anthony to get into. Poor guy. You guys know I'm a big fan of Carmelo. So anyway, so let's just start off with a recap of last night. I'm a little bit jealous. My mom, her and my dad last night went to the Kings game. We'll get into the Kings game, like the score of that game in a little bit, but they went on kind of like a little double date with my uncle and auntie as well. And it's really funny because my mom, she likes basketball, but it's not necessarily the first thing on her list of things to do, but she likes to go for the company. You know what I mean? And the experience. But, you know, if she got to pick where the double date would be, I know for a fact it would not be at a basketball game. So I was a little bit jealous when she texted me and told me that she was going to the game again, because I promise you, my mom, for someone whose first choice is not a basketball game, she goes to the basketball games, to the Kings games quite often. But anyways, so let's get into the scores from last night. So the Atlanta Hawks went to Philadelphia to take on the 76ers. They defeated them 99-92. Dwight Howard of the Atlanta Hawks, he was the big performer in the middle, had a strong 22 points and 20 rebounds in that game last night. So he was just snagging things left and right. Not a ball he didn't want that he didn't get. It seems like he also had 4 assists, so not selfish at all last night for the big man inside. The Oklahoma City Thunder went to Orlando to face off against the Magic, defeated them 114-106. And I'm going to talk to you guys later on about what this means for what Russel Westbrook as far as personal bests are concerned. He had 57 points, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists in that win for his squad last night. So quite a performance for Russell in that game against the Magic in that win. The Milwaukee Bucks took on the Boston Celtics last night, barely skating through on a win, 103-100. Giannis on the inside for the Bucks. The big guy had a huge performance for them and his team, 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. And Isaiah Thomas, no surprise there, being the top scorer for the Celtics with 32 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And then moving on to the Hornets and the Raptors. Last night, the Hornets topped. It looks like it was a really good night for traveling teams so far. 110-106, the Hornets defeated the Raptors. Marvin Williams for Charlotte had 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 1 assist. DeMar DeRozan, no surprise there, the top performer for the Raptors in that loss last night, 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists for the shooting guard. And then the Miami Heat went on and defeated the New York Knicks. We have some New York Knicks talk to get into later on in the episode. The Heat defeated the Knicks 105-88. Tough loss for the Knicks at home against the Heat. And then the Indiana Pacers went to go challenge the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies defeated the Pacers last night 97-110. Thaddeus Young of the Pacers, he had 16 points and 13 rebounds in that effort against the Grizzlies, but it was just not enough against Michael Conley. He had 36 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists in that win at home in Memphis over there. And then we had the Pelicans host the Dallas Mavericks. They luckily held down the home court against the Mavericks last night. 118-121 was the final score. Dirk Nowitzki still at it, still doing what Dirk does. 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. But DeMarcus Cousins, he had 29 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 assists to push the Pels over the Mavs last night in that game down in Louisiana. And then a great win for the Golden State Warriors last night. They were on the road, went to go play the Spurs in San Antonio. So usually that is a recipe for a loss when you're a visiting team, no matter really who you are. But the Warriors were able to get it done. They defeated the Spurs 110-98. You know, they were able to come back and take that win in San Antonio. Steph Curry, 29 points, 3 rebounds, and 11 assists for the little guy up top. Pau Gasol, he had 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. But like I said, the Warriors went into San Antonio on a mission and got it done. The Wizards went to go visit the Clippers in LA, a high-scoring game on both sides of the court, 124-133. The Clips take it and hold down LA. John Wall of the Wizards, 41 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists. And Chris Paul, still, sticking in it and showing why he is the leader of that team. And, they've had quite a few injuries, so especially Chris Paul in particular. So he hasn't been making as much noise this season, but he had 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 13 assists. So he was literally orchestrating and giving you the ball whenever and wherever you wanted it. So 13 assists. Great performance by Chris Paul. And then to wrap up the evening, my Kings, we were doing so good at the beginning of the week, but they fell to the Utah Jazz. So the Jazz came out here to Sacramento, and like I said, my parents and my auntie and uncle were at that game last night. They had the Jazz had 112 points to our 82. Gordon Hayward of the Utah Jazz, 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Ben McLemore of the Kings, he had 22 points, 4 rebounds, and just 1 assist in that loss to the Jazz last night. So pretty tough night for my Kings, but I'm telling you, if you were a traveling team last night, the odds were a lot in your favor. So a lot of last night, if your team was on the road, was a lot of fun for you if you were hosting. Anyway, so I'm going to take it to a quick break, and then when I come back, I'm going to give you guys a preview of what to look forward to tonight in the matchups this evening, as well as what Russell's triple-double last night meant for him as far as a personal best, and also just in NBA triple-double history. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and I will be right back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and I'm going to give you guys a quick preview of the games tonight and what to look forward to tonight. There's quite a few games happening. Of course, we know that a lot of us, not me, but some of you guys are going to be traveling to the Final Four. So, of course, I'm excited for you guys when it comes to that. A little bit jealous of those of you who are going to be at the Final Four this weekend. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it's everything you imagined and more. Maybe next year. I think they're hosting it in San Antonio, I believe, the Final Four. I believe it's in Texas this next year coming up. So I guess I should start planning and saving for that then. But anyway, so let's get into the matchups for tonight. So we have the Brooklyn Nets going to Detroit to take on the Pistons tonight. And then we also have the Cavaliers taking on the Bulls. Hopefully this will be a secured win for the Cavs. I know they need it for their morale, especially if anything else. The LA Lakers are going to visit the Timberwolves. And then the LA Clippers are also going to be on the road in Phoenix, facing off against the Suns. And then we have the Trailblazers hosting James Harden and the Houston Rockets tonight at 7:30 Pacific time in Portland. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure a huge performance by James Harden is in the works. So let's move on to some basketball news in the NBA. There's some things that we have to discuss. I want to give you guys some facts on my favorite guy, Russell. And we also have to get into the All-American game because, we just recently had the state championships in high school and things like that. So there's just so much basketball. March is so fun. It's literally all basketball at every level. This is the month, the excitement. I know with March Madness, we focus a lot on mainly college basketball, but there's a lot of March Madness when it comes to high school sports, high school basketball, and even in the NBA, because, this is fun time too. So it's just basketball all day, all night. So anyway, so let's get into, I told you guys that I had some stats for you when it came to our guy, Russell. So last night he had 57 points in his triple-double. Now, I've been a fan of Russell this entire time, and I have been saying that I believe that he would average a triple-double and that his momentum, he would not cool off as the season progressed. And again, I don't think that he's not showing any signs of slowing down. So anyway, so last night they defeated the Orlando Magic, and he had 57 points and 13 rebounds and 11 assists, which means that this is the most points in a triple-double in NBA history. So he tops both James Harden and Wilt Chamberlain, who each scored 53 points in a triple-double. So he surpassed that. He also had one of the top, I believe, 10 in history, because previously, before last night, he had 51 points in a triple-double. So he was up there. So this is actually his second 50-point triple-double this season. And, which is crazy just in itself, just in this season. So this is his second 50-point triple-double this season. He's the second player ever with multiple 50-point triple-doubles in a single season. The other person is James Harden. So again, two of the biggest, if not really only contenders for MVP as of late. This is his 75th career triple-double, which is the fifth most in NBA history. So he's doing a lot. He's been doing a lot. He's continued to doing a lot. He's having a lot of these personal bests. So honestly, what else did we expect? What else did you expect? He has, I don't know if it's necessarily, and I don't think that it's a fair argument to say that he's just trying to get stats because, he still is, like, I'm sure he is still trying to get his stats and things like that. But at the same time, he has 11 assists, so he's being very unselfish. Having a triple-double means that you are doing a lot, but you're also being very unselfish. And so, congratulations to Russell. I'm his biggest fan in, I think, the whole GSMC network. So, and last night I quote, so this is what he said about the game. At the end of the game, he said, "That is definitely a blessing. I definitely don't take this game for granted, and I try to come out each night and try to compete at a high level. That is definitely something that is a blessing and definitely something that I can be proud of." Rightfully so. He should be. They are going to the playoffs. He's having a breakout season, showing that no matter who he's with, he can get the job done. So not a problem for Russell Westbrook when it comes to scoring, when it comes to getting others involved, and he'll snag pretty much as many rebounds as the big guys, if not more, on the court that night as well. So quite a game and historic night against the Magic for Russell Westbrook with that. So anyways, shifting gears to another player who has been having quite a season, but in basically the opposite sense of Russell Westbrook. And so, Carmelo Anthony has been having a troublesome year. We've been discussing just the fact that the Knicks aren't all that great this season. The front office, the players, he's been having some tension between him and Phil. So it's just been a lot. Last night, they lost 105-88. And, Carmelo Anthony says that he's at peace right now with playing a lesser role for the remainder of the season as the team is kind of shifting gears and focusing a lot on a lot of their younger players. And I quote what he said last night. He said, "I see the writing on the wall. I see what it is. I see what they're trying to do. And it's just me accepting that. That's what puts me at peace. Just knowing and understanding how things work. I'm at peace with that." So basically, they're pretty much eliminated from the playoffs. They're 28-47 overall in the season. And so, they're looking at and rotating in a lot of those younger players, seeing how they do against competition, seeing how they work together in competition in these games. And so, and he said, trying to score 30 and 40 every night and playing that way is going to help them out at this point. So he doesn't think that that's going to help them out at this point. So, and I don't know, this makes me just fall in love with Carmelo Anthony even more, because so many times he could have just gave up on this organization, but he's saying, I'm willing to let them go out and get more experience and letting them. And he said, I think it's for the greater good and for everybody on this team. So kind of having a tough season. So we will see, they're not making a playoff appearance this season, and he's not quite sure exactly his future even on the team. And he did speak to at least 3 different teams before the trade deadline. Phil Jackson did. So we'll see. Anthony still has a no trade clause and said that the Knicks never approached him with an official trade offer before the deadline, and perhaps that the organization will revisit its attempts to deal Anthony, kind of trade him in the offseason. So we'll see. where Carmelo Anthony will be. I know that he's always said that he wanted to stay in New York, but we'll see how the offseason goes. And of course, we will keep you guys updated with that as the time comes. So with that, we're going to take our last break of the episode. And then when I come back, I'm going to tell you guys about the All-American game that took place and the exciting prospects to look from that game as well. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'll be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and we're getting ready to wrap up this episode of the show. I have some news to share with you guys. We have Lance Stephenson, Joakim Noah news, and also I'm going to wrap up the show on a high note, which is the All-American game that was played. So anyway, so first off, I'm going to start with the bad news, and we'll end it on better news, and it'll get better and better as before they end the show, and we'll end the show on a high note. So, so Joakim Noah had to apologize to the fans and Knicks organization the other day because, so recently he had a knee surgery, right? And he apologized on Tuesday, and it's to his team and his fans specifically because he is also going to start serving a 20-game suspension for using a banned substance. So it looks like, and this is what his quote is, "I made a mistake. It was a tough year for me for this team," Noah said after returning to practice Tuesday. "I let a lot of people down. It was a mistake, and I got to learn from it and bounce back. This is a tough moment, and I'm going to learn from it." So, he did apologize, which is good, but he did violate the NBA's collective bargaining drug policy. I don't know. You guys know how I feel about this kind of stuff, so I don't know. He's serving a 20-game suspension, and he had that tough injury. He had to have knee surgery. It's just not the best season for Joakim Noah. So hopefully, like he said, he will bounce back. He tested positive for an over-the-counter supplement, which is banned. One of the bans, he said that the supplement was not provided by the Knicks. It was an over-the-counter supplement that he took while trying to rehab from an injury. So, I don't know. Hopefully, everybody can learn from this. This is something that, if it's on the banned list of things that you shouldn't be taking, you probably should not be taking it. I don't know. You guys know how I feel about this kind of stuff. So hopefully he does feel better. I hope that his, surgery did go well and things like that, and that he can move forward. He is 32 years old. So a little bit, he's getting to that peak, if not decline, as far as what we think is old in the NBA. So hopefully this will be one of the last injuries as well as setbacks for him. So best of luck to Joakim Noah, and just let this, if it's on the list of things that you should not be taking, even if it's not a prescription, don't take it. Anyway, so moving on to better news from yesterday. So after playing for 5 different teams in the last 3 seasons, Lance Stephenson is returning to the, believe it or not, Indiana Pacers. So he, played for Indiana in the first 4 seasons of his career. And while he was there, he was averaging 13.8 points, 7 rebounds, and about 4.6 assists during, that 2014 season, which was basically his best career in the game, in the league. So, hasn't had a real consistent role since. And, he's only 26 years old, so not old at all. I know people are, we talked about earlier this week about how the Suns are averaging, their average age is about 21, and then you hear that this guy is 26. So it sounds kind of old, but it's really not. It's really not. So if the Pacers make the playoffs, he will actually be eligible to play in the playoffs. So they did waive Rodney Stuckey yesterday to make room on their roster for Stephenson. So that's great news for him. He's returning back. Hopefully he will have a breakout. Well, not necessarily a breakout, but will be able to finish this season strong and more confidently now that he has agreed to that 3-year, $12 million deal with the Pacers, with the first 2 guaranteed and a team option on the 3rd year of that contract. So congratulations, Lance. I hope he can, bust a move out there for them these next couple seasons. And because there's nothing worse than not having a consistent place to be. I can't imagine how that must have been for him. But anyways, so we are getting ready to wrap up this episode. And so, like I said, I wanted to end it on a high note. And I think that high school sports is a good way to end it in a high note for them as these prospects are getting ready. There's nothing more fun than, I think, seeing the future players come up, and it's always exciting. The All-American game, I think, is something that the McDonald's All-American game is something that all young high school players aspire to be selected for. So a lot of fun. So they had the game Wednesday, so last night, and for the West side, Michael Porter Jr., he was the leading scorer and the lead for the West last night. He had 17 points and 8 rebounds in the win, with the Wests over the East side, 109 to 107. So a high-scoring game, a fun-scoring game, a close game. So all the components for a really fun, exciting game. Michael Porter Jr., he is 6'10" forward, and he's ranked top, one of the top prospects of the class. And he announced actually last week that he will be playing college basketball at Missouri. His father was actually just recently hired as the assistant coach out there, so does not surprise me why he would want to go over there. He was also named the game's MVP. And then Jalen Hands, who is a UCLA recruit, added 14 points for the West in that win over the East. And the East was led by Mohamed Bamba, who scored 17 points. Also, he was 7 of 10 from shooting, but he is still undecided as far as where he is going to be going for college at this time. So we'll see where he decides. And then on the girls' side of things, Rella Booth, she had 18 points and 9 rebounds to lead the East, as the East actually beat the West last night, 80 to 74 in overtime. And she is 6'1", and she has signed with Texas. So exciting time in high school basketball. I can't imagine how that must feel, playing in the All-American game and deciding, having all these offers and deciding the best fit for you and where you want to go, and, just who's going to set you up next or best for the next phase in your life. That's probably my favorite time, is signing day and, draft day. I love watching the draft, the NBA draft and the NFL draft as well, because it's just, I don't know. I just feel like you've worked that hard your whole life for that moment. For the most part, a lot of these kids, their entire life. Some guys get lucky and they just start playing basketball in 10th grade, and then they just are phenoms. But whatever. You guys know what I mean. They work hard for that moment, and how proud their families must be. And you guys know I always get sappy every draft day. So nonetheless, I will be sappy this draft day as well. So anyways, so that's going to do it for this episode of the Basketball Podcast. I will catch you guys next time. I believe Ben will be in the studio tomorrow, and Ben and I will both be in the studio on Monday to talk about all of the Final Four action. So I'll talk to you guys next time.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.